Historical Truths presents the Soviet treatment of German prisoners after World War II. The treatment of German prisoners of war by the Soviet Union during and after World War II remains a complex and contentious topic in historical discourse. The experiences of German prisoner of war under Soviet captivity varied widely, influenced by a multitude of factors, including wartime circumstances, Soviet policies, and individual interactions between captors and captives. At the outset, it is essential to acknowledge the context in which these events unfolded. The Eastern Front of World War II witnessed some of the most brutal and unforgiving combat in human history. The Soviet Union bore the brunt of the conflict, enduring immense human and material losses in its struggle against Nazi Germany. This backdrop of total war inevitably colored the treatment of German prisoner of war by the Soviet forces. Soviet policies toward German prisoner of war were shaped by a blend of vengeance, security concerns, and ideological fervor. Many Soviet soldiers had witnessed firsthand the atrocities committed by the German military on Soviet soil, including mass executions, widespread destruction, and the systematic murder of civilians. As such, a sense of retribution permeated the treatment of German captives, driven by a desire to exact justice for the suffering inflicted upon the Soviet people. The treatment of German prisoner of war varied across different phases of the war during the early stages of the conflict. When the tide of battle turned decisively against the Wehrmacht, conditions for German captives were often harsh and punitive. Many were subjected to forced labor, inadequate rations, and brutal living conditions in Soviet prisoner of war camps. Instances of violence and abuse were not uncommon, reflecting the raw emotions of war and the desire for revenge among some Soviet soldiers and commanders. As the war progressed and the Soviet Union emerged victorious, the treatment of German prisoner of war underwent a gradual shift. With the end of hostilities, Soviet authorities sought to repatriate German prisoners and rebuild the war-ravaged nation. The signing of the Yalta and Potsdam Agreements in 1945 established guidelines for the treatment and repatriation of POWs, including those held by the Soviet Union. While these agreements outlined principles of humane treatment, the realities on the ground often fell short of these ideals. For many German prisoners of war, captivity under Soviet rule extended well beyond the end of the war. Tens of thousands were detained for years in Soviet labor camps and detention facilities, where they toiled under grueling conditions in mines, factories, and construction projects. The exact number of German prisoner of war who perished in Soviet captivity remains a matter of debate among historians, with estimates ranging from tens of thousands to several hundred thousand. The treatment of German prisoner of war by the USSR continues to evoke strong emotions and heated debate among scholars and descendants of those who lived through this tumultuous period. While accounts of Soviet atrocities and abuses against German captives are well documented, it is also important to recognize the complexities and nuances of this historical narrative. The treatment of prisoner of war during wartime is often a reflection of the broader dynamics of conflict, shaped by factors beyond the control of individual actors. In conclusion, the treatment of German prisoner of war by the USSR during World War II represents a dark, untroubled chapter in the annals of history. While some captives endured unimaginable suffering at the hands of their Soviet captors, others found unexpected acts of compassion and solidarity amid the chaos of war. As we strive to make sense of this complex and multifaceted history, it is imperative to approach the subject with empathy, nuance, and a commitment to understanding the full range of human experiences that define this turbulent era. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to see more content. Like this,